Before we start this facility, I would like to say a few words on behalf of every member of our team. Yesterday, we were reunited with our families after a 14-day ordeal that none of us will ever forget. On arrival at London Heathrow, we were given the news that 4 UK servicemen and a civilian interpreter had been killed in Iraq. We would like to pass on our thoughts and condolences to the families of those who died serving their country. We would also like to, as a group, thank the staff of the British Embassy in Tehran and the Foreign Office and Ministry of Defence for all their work in securing our release. We understand that a great deal of effort has been going on behind the scenes to enable us to be returned to the UK, and for that we are very grateful. We would also like to thank British Airways and London Heathrow for making our return so comfortable, quick and easy. Lastly, I would like to thank the very many members of the Royal Navy and Royal Marines who have been working so hard over the last 2 weeks, supporting our families and friends, and for arranging our return here.
On Friday, the 23rd of March, I, along with 14 of my colleagues, were part of a routine boarding patrol. We deployed from HMS Cornwall in 2 ribs, those are rigid inflatable boats, and patrolled into an area south of the Shat Al Arab waterway. This was meant to be a routine boarding operation, which followed 66 similar boarding operations in the previous 4 weeks. We approached an unidentified merchant vessel that our supporting helicopter had identified as worth investigation. We carried out a completely compliant boarding with the full cooperation of the master and the crew. The Royal Marines secured the vessel, and the Royal Navy element of the boarding party then arrived and commenced a thorough search of the ship. This was in complete accordance with our UN mandate and as part of an international coalition. We were equipped with Zeres, true navigational equipment, and handheld GPS for backup. The helicopter in support provided continuous navigational confirmation, and we were also linked to HMS Cornwall, who were monitoring our exact position at all times. Let me make it absolutely clear, irrespective of what has been said in the past, when we were detained by the IRG, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, we were inside internationally recognised Iraqi territorial waters, and I can clearly state we were 1.7 nautical miles from Iranian waters.
It was during the boarding that we noticed the helicopter return to mother, and we started calling the ship on VHF to find out why. A short while later, 2 speedboats were spotted, approaching rapidly about 400 metres away. It was then that I ordered everybody to make their weapons ready, and I ordered the boarding party to return to the boats. By the time all were back on board, 2 Iranian boats had come alongside. One officer spoke good English, and I explained that we were conducting a routine operation as allowed under a UN mandate. But when we tried to leave, they prevented us by blocking us in. By now, it was becoming increasingly clear they had arrived with a planned intent. Some of the Iranian sailors were becoming deliberately aggressive and unstable. They rammed our boats and trained their heavy machine guns, RPG and weapons on us. Another 6 boats were closing in on us. We realised that our efforts to reason with these people were not making any headway, nor were we able to calm some of the individuals down. It was at this point that we realised that had we resisted, there would have been a major fight, one which we could not have won, and with consequences that would have major strategic impacts. We made a conscious decision not to engage the Iranians and do as they asked. They boarded our boats, removed our weapons, and steered the boats towards the Iranian shore.
On arrival at a small Iranian naval base, we were blindfolded, stripped of all our kit, and led to a room where I declared myself as the officer in charge and was introduced to their local commander. 2 hours later, we were moved to a second location, and throughout the night were subjected to random interrogations. The questions were aggressive and the handling rough, but it was no worse than that. The following morning, we were flown to Tehran and transported to a prison where the atmosphere changed completely. We were blindfolded, our hands were bound, and we were forced up against the wall. Throughout our ordeal, we faced constant psychological pressure. Later, we were stripped and then dressed in pyjamas. The next few nights were spent in stone cells, approximately 8 feet by 6, sleeping on piles of blankets. All of us were kept in isolation. We were interrogated most nights and presented with 2 options. If we admitted that we'd strayed, we'd be back on a plane to the UK pretty soon. If we didn't, we faced up to 7 years in prison. We all, at one time or another, made a conscious decision to make a controlled release of non-operational information. We were kept in isolation until the last few nights, when we were allowed to gather together for a few hours in the full glare of the Iranian media. On day 12, we were taken to a governmental complex, blindfolded, and then given three-piece suits to wear. We watched the President's statement live on television, and it was only then that we realised we were to be sent home. It goes without saying that there was a great deal of elation at this point. We were made to then line up and meet the President one at a time. My advice to everyone was not to mess this up now. We all wanted to get home. Afterwards, and still blindfolded, we were taken back to the hotel, and for the first time we met with UK representatives, including the Ambassador, before boarding our flight to Heathrow.
In the short time we have been back, we have not been able to see all that has been broadcast or written about our ordeal. We are aware that many people have questioned why we allowed ourselves to be taken in the first place, and why we allowed ourselves to be shown by the Iranian authorities on television. Let me be absolutely clear. From the outset, it was very apparent that fighting back was simply not an option. Had we chosen to do so, then many of us would not be standing here today. Of that I have no doubts. The Iranian Navy did not turn up lightly armed. They came with intent, heavy weapons, and very quickly surrounded us. We were equipped, armed, and had rules of engagement for boarding operations within Iraqi water. We were not too prepared to fight a heavily armed force who, in our impression, came out deliberately into Iraqi waters to take us prisoner. Reasoning with the Iranians was our only option. We tried, we did our utmost to de-escalate the situation, but our words fell on deaf ears. They had come with a clear purpose, and they were never going to leave without us. The Iranians are not our enemies. We are not at war with them. Our rules of engagement at that time stated that we could only use lethal force if we felt we were in imminent danger of a loss of life. By the time the true intent of the Iranians had become apparent, and we could have legitimately fought back, it was too late for action. We were completely surrounded, and in addition to the loss of life, any attempted fight back would cause a major international incident and an escalation of tension within the region. Our team had seconds to make a decision, and we believe that we made the right decision. We still believe this is the right thing to do.
Some people have questioned why HMS Cornwall did not provide greater protection for our team. HMS Cornwall is there to guard the vital oil platforms and command the coalition forces. She's also the platform by where the boarding teams can launch from and patrol out. Not only should she not have been closer to us, but she physically could not have been. The water in the area where we were captured was too shallow. We're all immensely proud to be members of her crew, and we look forward to rejoining her. I would just like to stress 3 points at this stage. When taken by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, we were well inside Iraqi territorial waters. Secondly, the detention was clearly illegal and not a pleasant experience. We as a group held out for as long as we thought appropriate. We then complied up to a point with our captors. We remain immensely proud of our team. Their courage and dignity throughout their illegal detention was entirely in line with the best traditions of the service. Throughout our ordeal,